No, he'll be here a little later.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, we've got a busy schedule this day. We got a lot in closed session. So, if we can get going here, is there any additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have any additions to the agenda. However, I'll announce now, and I'll announce again at regular session. The staff is recommending we pull item 7F, which is the Temperance Flat Reservoir Project, to be removed from the agenda today and rescheduled to November 21st.
Okay. County Council. Quit whispering over there. We're moving on forward here.
Certainly, Chairman. There are 6 items for closed session today. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The county negotiators are Adrian Caleb and Ken Caves, and the employee organization is all units. There's 2 existing litigations under Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D1. One case is Canandaigua Wine Company versus the County of Madera, and the other case is Avila versus the State of California. Public employee appointment is also on the agenda under Government Code Section 54957. The title of position is Veteran Services Officer. And there are 2 anticipated litigations pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. One is under subsection D4. That's a decision whether to initiate litigation. There's one case. And the other is under paragraph 2 of subdivision D. That's significant exposure to litigation, and that's also one case. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go in closed session, and we'll see everybody out here at 10 o'clock.
Yes, Chairman, there are 2 items to report out of closed session. On a motion by Supervisor Wheeler, a second by Supervisor Frazier, with 4 affirmative votes in favor of initiating litigation to obtain to seek to obtain a workplace restraining order. I'm also happy to report 1 item on behalf of the Board of Supervisors. On a motion by Supervisor Frazier, a second by Supervisor Rodriguez, affirmative votes by Supervisor Wheeler and Poitras, with Supervisor Rodriguez being absent, Mr. Curtis Foster is appointed as the Madera County Veteran Services Officer, effective November 8, 2017. Discussion and consideration of approval to set Mr. Foster's salary step placement will occur during open session today. It's noted as item 7C. Thank you.
That would have been a second by Supervisor Rogers.
My apology.
No worries.
That is, what did I say? I apologize. It is a second by Supervisor Rogers, a first by Supervisor Frazier.
Very good. Agenda item 3, invocation by Pastor Rigby. And Pledge of Allegiance for Supervisor Frazier.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. I appreciate the opportunity to open this morning in prayer on behalf of the Madera Ministerial Association. Thank you so much. Let us pray. Father, this morning we pray for our meeting. First, thanking you for the freedoms that we live in this great nation, the democracy that we have. And we even this morning remember those that are mourning lost loved ones in Sutherland Springs, Texas, and Wilson County. We pray that peace be with those families. We also pray this morning, Psalms 119, verse 66. Teach us your wisdom, O Lord, and knowledge, because we trust your commands. So we pray for our county, that every decision made here this morning between these four walls will exemplify wisdom, understanding, and benefit the future of our county. We pray for clarity and honesty and a spirit of cooperation. May our county steward the resources that they are responsible for in a way that will benefit every person that lives in this county. We pray, God, that you would be over the men that make these decisions and their staff members, that you would bless them continually. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Will you please join me in saluting our flag? Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I also want to thank Charles Rigby for his work on the City Council in Madera. He was a great colleague of ours. Thank you, Charles,
You bet.
for all your work.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Do we have anybody we want to remember in the open and close in memory of?
Is this thing on?
We don't. Agenda 4, public comment. Ron.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Any handouts to the board must be submitted to the chief clerk of the board for distribution to the supervisors. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium. Also, all persons addressing the board may state their name and county of residence for the record.
Mr. Chairman, I do have something I want to say.
You have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone, we're coming up on Veterans Day, November 11th hour of the 11th month. And we often lose sight of that day. We look at it as a holiday, and we go spend time with our family and enjoy those things. Let us not be remiss in thinking of those who have given so much that we have the freedom to enjoy that day. And it is important that we consider the sacrifice that was made for us. Every member of the armed forces is to be remembered and thanked for their service to our country. We have a great country and the great opportunity to be free. And we owe a veteran and what they've done for us because of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Agenda item 5.
I think we have a couple more.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Dexter Marr and Ramron Health. I just wanted to bring your attention today is Taco Tuesday. So the first Tuesday of each month, we are having a taco truck downstairs. So it is available for the public as well as everybody here at the Government Center. First Tuesday of each month. It's from 11:30 to 1. Thank you. Yes, that is today.
I'll make sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dexter.
Well, good morning. It's a privilege to be here today. My name's Matt Rogers, and I serve as the Central Valley District Director for our new United States Senator in California, Kamala Harris. And our Fresno District office is downtown Fresno. I just wanted to come today and introduce myself, introduce our office, make sure you know that we are accessible and open and willing to help in any way possible on any issues that the Board of Supervisors is dealing with, or any members of the community as well. I'm no stranger to the Valley, born and raised here, went to Fresno State, raised on my family's farm, never left. And got involved in legislative work and politics and government relations and different things about over a decade ago. So one thing that I will, and I share with each community we go into, when we first met with Senator Harris as a new staff, her directive to each of our district directors, including myself, was you do not build your district office based on what you think is best, what, a VIP in the community may think is best. There's no VIPs. You go out into your communities, you talk to your Board of Supervisors, you talk to your city councils, your mayors, and you ask them what they want to see out of a senator's office, and then your office is built according to our local communities. So I thank you for the privilege of being here this morning and having the opportunity to introduce myself. I passed out cards, and I would just encourage you, if there's anything that we can be of assistance on, we're a phone call and an email away. And I appreciate your time and look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Matt, thank you for being here this morning. I see you spell your name the right way.
Yeah. When you were...
M-A-T-T?
Funny story. When you were running for a higher office, I had several people say, your uncle is running for Congress. And I said, what? And so
you got hair. You know he's not.
I actually called my Uncle Tony. I said, are you running for Congress? And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. So I got to the bottom of it, but thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to be here.
Good name.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, Matt, two things. Welcome. And the second thing, do you farm part-time now? Or?
No.
Oh, your family does. Okay.
Family.
And the second thing is, what we would really like if you could, when you come and maybe any kind of legislation or something might be going on that she might be sponsoring or against or for or whatever, bring it to us and let us know about it at these meetings. It would be
sure.
really
I'll just,
helpful.
if I can quickly mention two things. The SALT deduction is something she's working with cross-party lines to try to preserve in the GOP tax bill that's going through Congress. We feel that's really important for Central Valley families to have that deduction preserved. And then she also partnered with Senator Feinstein and Republican senators on the Ag Labor Protection Act, which is making sure our growers have adequate labor for the harvest, and farm workers are not under fear of any type of deportation as long as they can go and get their blue, I think it's called the blue card is what we've called it. That means there's no criminal activity in their past. They're playing by the rules so they can continue to work. So that was two pieces of legislation that have actually been successful, and we're moving forward on those.
And that labor means nothing without water. Just remind her how much we need water here as well.
Her first visit as the senator to the Central Valley was an ag tour, and we had a water and ag roundtable. It was very thoughtful, good dialogue. There's some good projects out there, but she absolutely understands the importance of storage, and it has to be done soon.
Right.
Right.
Matt,
Very
a question
good.
for you. What's your position on high-speed rail?
Oh, come on, Mac.
Well, throw me into the fire.
You asked for this. You come upon us, but you got to take it all.
The senator has been in support of high-speed rail. I'm sure we all have wished the setbacks and the prolonged process and different things that have not been the greatest had not happened, but she has been a supporter of high-speed rail. But we're looking to see, of course, why the budget is continuing to grow and why the timeline is continuing to be expanded. And so those are things that, the senator will be looking into, but she is supportive of the project.
Good. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You were preaching to the choir on that. Anybody else want to speak? Okay.
Number 5, consent calendar.
We'll take it out to the public. Any comment on the consent calendar? We'll bring it back to the board.
I just had one question.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Wheeler.
Excuse me. On item J, it's Water District, and is there just nobody else that wants to be on that particular deal, or is it a small district? Because it's a man and a wife, or a man and a daughter, or something on that district. J.
Oh, on Newstone? I believe. I don't think there's very many.
Yeah, so this is Julia Berry, Water and Natural Resources Department. This is actually the clerk's item because they do the appointments. But I can explain. The Newstone Water District is owned by two people.
Oh, okay, that's
And-
what I need to know.
Yeah, the Lyon family owns, out of the 4,100 acres, they own about 4,000 of the acres.
Okay.
So
So-
to say that there's not a huge pool.
Yeah,
to pull
well, that's what I
from.
just needed to know, so. I just kind of watch those, because they can monopolize something. And then I just want to say under G and under H, they're both good deals, changing updating some of our rules for the Planning Commission, I think is a great idea. And the other thing, the trail underneath the railroad tracks, I think that's really a super deal that we're doing. So because there's always somebody seems like getting hit trying to outrun a train. So thank you guys for working on that. So that's all I have, Chair.
Okay. And I just, on
Supervisor
on TU and V, I just wanted to thank staff from Public Works and the Roads Department for figuring out how to get the best bang for our buck and fixing roads that have needed to be fixed for years. And the work that you guys have been doing out there in the Bonneville Ranchos has not gone unnoticed. People are very happy out there with their roads, and I think, though, unfortunately, Midas is upset because they haven't been selling as many shocks to the people in the ranchos anymore because they can actually drive along some of these roads. But I just wanted to point out what a great job you all are doing, and you're really stretching the dollars and making a huge impact for people's lives. I just want to say thank you.
Omad, if you put your priorities in line, where is Road 28 on that list?
Good morning,
Hello to you
Mr.
and
Chairman,
me.
members of the board. Let me just use my memory. I believe Road 28 is on our Measure T, projected for Measure T for next year. Okay. And I will confirm and get back to you as well, but that's my recollection. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Do we have any other questions from the public or the board? Can we
Move to approve. And we got to take out, no, that's under regular, is it?
I'll second it.
Is there something we had to take out of this, or is it out of the regular?
I think it's out of the regular.
Yes, it was out of the regular session.
Okay.
Yes.
7F.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0. Public hearing. Mr. Chairman, we ask that 6C be heard first this morning under public hearing, and that's the County Clerk Recorder, Division of Elections, and Clerk of the Board of Supervisors.
Hearing to consider the adoption of an ordinance adding a section to Title 2.09 to enact electronic filing of campaign documents and statement of economic interest forms 700 with opt-in program. Candidates and committees have the option of filing electronically or by paper with a mandate for electric filing by January 1st, 2018. Conflict of interest statements, 700 form filers have the option of filing electronically or by paper with a mandate for electronic filing by January 1st, 2020.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I have with me this morning Tom Diebert with NetFile, Inc. He is the vendor that you approved the agreement with in November of 2016. This morning is the second hearing and are asking for your approval on the adoption of the ordinance for electronic filing of campaign documents and our statement of interest forms. Thank you. And are open to any questions.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it increases the transparency in which people can see where campaign funds are going to, and I think any transparency is good in my view. So thank you for bringing this forward to us. I think it makes it easier for us as well as easier for the public to know what's going on. So.
Any other questions from the board? Public comments? None? Bring it back to the board for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I did.
Thank you. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Good job.
Thank you, Sarah.
Six A. Animal Services Department, hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 6.04 of Title VI of the Madera County Code pertaining to animal services fees, and consideration to adopt a resolution modifying the animal services fee schedule.
Good morning. Kirsten Gross, Animal Services Director. Here, this is the second hearing in regard to animal services fees, minor increases to cover our costs. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
I got one.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, I know in the backup it says, I can look it up here real quick, but it says that we requested you had the cost of living. And I looked at both the two, you have two different ordinances on it. I didn't see it in writing in that.
We did add that cost of living increase through some new resolution.
New verbiage in
County
it?
Council.
I couldn't find it, but that don't mean it's not there.
I think it's in the resolution, not the ordinance, is that?
Yes, Chairman and members of the board, it's in the resolution. It's about the third whereas. Let me grab that here.
Oh, okay.
Tied to the CPA.
Okay.
So that would have it.
I just want to make sure.
If you want to give me 1 minute just to make sure, because yesterday I noticed the resolution, the newer resolution wasn't on the backup, and I thought we corrected that. It should be available here for the board and the public to review. Do we have copies of that here?
I'll double check our website. The revised resolution was received by us, and we'll make sure it was uploaded to the website.
And why don't I find it right here quickly?
I believe I saw it.
And read that provision.
The provision was tied to the Consumer Price Index.
Which is here's what it says, and this is what is requested for approval from the board. It says, all fees set forth in the attached animal service fee schedule shall be reviewed each July and adjusted annually based on Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, published by the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics as measured from July of the previous year through June of the current year. If the fees are adjusted based on the CPI, the department shall make available annually a revised fee schedule reflecting those adjustments.
That's it. Hereby close the public hearing.
I can't see it on there.
Move to approve.
Second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you.
6B, Community and Economic Development Department Planning Division, hearing to consider denial of an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to approve the application of AT&T and AT&T Mobility in care of Complete Wireless Consulting, Inc. for a conditional use permit to allow a new 104-foot-tall monopole and associated equipment to bring Internet access as well as improve telecommunication services to nearby residents, businesses, farms, and travelers. The property is owned by Roque Property and is located on the south side of Island Drive, approximately .90 mile northeast of its intersection with Highway 145 Madera. The property is zoned ARE-20, Agricultural Rural Exclusive 20-acre Manufactured Housing Architectural Review Overlay District. Size 5.33 acres. APN 035-010-019. A drafted mitigated negative declaration has been prepared concerning the proposed project in compliance with the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act and is available together with the initial study of the Madera County Community and Economic Development Planning Division.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion. I have a significant business relationship with Mr. Roque, so I will leave the room.
So be it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Treber, Planning Director here. I also have Becky Beavers, my Deputy Director. We do have a brief PowerPoint presentation for the board and public this morning, and then we'll be available for any questions the board may have.
Good morning. Good morning. AT&T Mobility, in care of Complete Wireless Consulting, CUP 2017-011. Appeal. This is an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to approve the conditional use permit. James Merrill is appealing the Planning Commission's decision to approve conditional use permit 2017-011 for a 104-foot tall monopole cell tower and associated ground equipment to be located on the south side of Island Drive, approximately a mile northeast of its intersection with Highway 145. At the September 5th, 2017 meeting, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit with a vote of 3-0 with in favor with 2 absent. The environmental issues were evaluated, and a mitigated negative declaration was determined. Areas of specific concern was aesthetics, air quality, cultural resources, and noise. The general plan designates this property agricultural exclusive. The property is zoned ARE 40 MHA, which is agricultural rural exclusive 40-acre district. I'm sorry, that's a 20-acre district with a manufactured housing and architectural review overlay. The request was to allow the construction of a new 104-foot monopole cell tower to bring in internet and broadband telecommunications. The project is a Connect America Fund project designed to provide broadband services to rural areas. Co-location was not feasible because existing towers cannot support the requirement for broadband service. Surrounding areas suffer from a lack of coverage due to poor signal strength and distance between existing communication towers. A lack of broadband-ready infrastructure proposed coverage. This broadband should bring the internet service to 355 homes. This is a drawing that just shows the location of other towers, cell towers in the area, within a 5-mile area. The site plan shows the location of the cell tower and the equipment, and just the elevation of the cell tower. Because of the neighborhood opposition, the applicant of the conditional use permit proposed the construction of the cell tower to look like a palm tree. And these are photo simulations of the palm trees. And here's another view, and I believe there's one more view. Staff recommends denial of the appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to approve CUP 2017-011, subject to conditions, mitigation negative declaration, and the mitigation monitoring plan. Thank you.
And just to add a little bit to this item is actually at the Planning Commission at 2 separate hearings. The initial one was in July, where there was obviously concerns, primarily a lot of those based on the aesthetic value. And the Commission at that time directed it back to staff to work with the applicant to come up with some revised elevations, which is really how we came to the palm tree design there. There are some tall trees
in the area. Typical palms of that nature are anywhere from 60 to about 85 feet in height. Obviously with the cell tower, it's not the tallest cell tower that we have. Typically we see a lot of those in the 120, 145-foot range. This is 104-foot. Staff believed, as did the Planning Commission ultimately in support of the project, that the palm tree design was a good one that shielded it, the different antennas and the microwave dishes, and made it look like a palm tree, in essence. So that concludes anything. We're available for any questions you may have.
Supervisor Fraser.
Thank you. Yes, I toured the site last week, looked at it from an aesthetic purpose. Why wouldn't it be able to be moved closer off of the road so you don't see it immediately? And then also one of the questions I had around the base of it, will there be any shrubbery or anything like that? I didn't see that in the site plan, but I've seen it around different ones.
Yes, so really to the extent of moving the cell tower from the property, the applicant is probably the best to discuss that. I would say that I know moving of the cell tower can significantly affect the coverage area and the amount of homes there. They probably could speak to that better on that instance. In regards to the landscape and the shrubbery, it does not include landscaping around the cabinet. That certainly is a condition that we can place on the project to provide some of the landscaping surrounding the cabinets and the site access.
Yeah, because looking at where the concentric rings, it looks like all the houses would be kind of right there in terms of the coverage zone.
One of these. No.
How many homes would be affected if it? It looks like it'd be like almost half. It looked like to me, if it was moved, which wouldn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, I believe, the site, as we've been discussed with the applicant, right, this is part of the Connect America funds and the FCC's push and the government's push to provide broadband, federal government's push to provide broadband internet access to those rural homes. This site is situated as such to provide that high-speed broadband internet access to the 355 homes. The movement of that on the property, I would envision, would have an impact certainly to the number of those homes that they can provide as part of that Connect America funds. The specifics on it, I couldn't tell you specifically. Potentially, AT&T may be able to do that. I believe they are here today. They might be able to give you some indication as to movement of that tower and what it might do to the coverage area. Mr. Chair?
Yes. I think AT&T has done a great job, both in the past and the present, on locating these things to maximize the number of people that receive the service. Not only is broadband important to residential uses and to public safety, which is a critical element of what everybody uses these cell phones for and what have you. But not only that, but this serves as a tool for agriculture as well. Agriculture is continually moving toward the use of broadband in their production and monitoring of water, the actual leveling of ground. There's just a number of uses in agriculture that are very important. And as part of I sit on the NACO, the National Association of County Organizations, on the Ag and Resources Committee. And as part of that committee, I have pushed for the use of broadband, or for the expansion of broadband into rural communities because of the necessity of its use in the agricultural industry and for public safety reasons. I think there's a twofold purpose here. And I'd like to commend AT&T on their effort to reach out in that regard, using the grant monies and making this happen for our region. Just recently, we had one in my district, very similar to this, and there were some constituents that were, they had concerns over it, and I think anytime people have concerns, you try to address those concerns. So I made the phone call and talked to them, and many of their actual fears weren't warranted. Some were health related, and then again the subject of aesthetics come up, and I think they've done a very good job in mitigating the line of sight, the view of what this actually looks like. And I think, who would have thought years ago that you could make these towers look like trees? It's just fantastic to me, because who doesn't like a tree, God did a good job on that, and so we emulate him. Thank you.
Any other questions? Let's take it out to the public.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members. My name is James Merrill. I live at 17755 Island Drive, directly across from this proposed tower. And I own 43 acres in the area. I spoke at the original hearing, and I was not available for the second hearing, but I decided it would be best if I come here today and try to appeal the decision, because I know this body is charged with listening to the people, as opposed to perhaps what the staff might do or the commission might do. You have a higher responsibility, and so I think I finally found listening ears, if you will. I've passed out a map that you take a moment to look at. It's an area map from the planning department, which I have overlaid with the owners' names and their vote of objection or acceptance of this proposal. As you can see by the map, the local people who will view this tower every day and pass by it every day represent 80%. They object to it. And I don't see where that was taken into much consideration in previous hearings. Those that are not opposed include the applicant, Mr. Rowe, and his neighbor is also his partner, Mr. Schmiedier, or Mrs. Schmiedier, actually. And their objection, Mrs. Schmiedier's objection, was that AT&T was needed. I can tell you that everyone on the island uses unwireless broadband from Kerman. It's a line of sight to the sheriff's office, works perfectly. I am a stock trader, a day trader. I have to have immediate information, the highest quality, the most speed. I get it through unwired broadband. It costs me $70 a month. There are different plans by unwired depending upon the speed you want. That's the highest. So the situation comes down to the fact that AT&T wants to be there. The people, 80% of the people in the immediate area, do not want them there. But we also realize that we should not disallow the other 20% from having the opportunity to use AT&T if they want. And therefore, we have, and to this point it is met on deaf ears, suggested that the alternative site be to the western edge of Mr. Roach's property. You can see on the map there's two different possibilities, which in deference to AT&T's argument that no, we can't move this, is a bit puzzling, because if you look back on the map, you'll see highlighted areas for Mr. Parrish, Mr. Skeen, and Mr. Van Loon. Those people were all offered this tower before Mr. Roque, and they all turned it down because of the aesthetics. So why would AT&T say now, oh no, we can't move it, when in fact they moved it 3 times prior to that? So we believe that AT&T just doesn't want to eat the money that they've got into this project so far. And by the way, they were notified by me personally, starting with the surveyor, that this is the wrong place for it and they should go back and double check on what they can do with another site. AT&T is doing this. You have to follow the money. It's only for the CAF funds that they're getting for this particular site. They will still get them if they move it. They may not get as much. And if there's 355 homes, I'd like to know where they are. There's 20 homes on the island. 20. There's a cell tower 2 miles away. So I don't know where these 355 homes are that don't have any service. So for those reasons, and for the 80% of the people immediately affected by this are saying, please have AT&T move their tower. They can move it to the western edge. Mr. Roque's property is 100% almonds, and it will be almonds. That's his business. So it will be hidden up against the river, and he and Mr. Schmieder should be happy with that. We have skin in the game here. We love our property out there where it is. If you've been there, you know what I mean. It's beautiful. And to put a palm tree there, there's only one other palm tree in the area, across the street from where this proposal is. It's about 40 feet tall. The new palm tree that they suggest, they don't tell you, is that it's going to take. There's 12 panels on that tower. 3 sets of people can be on there, of users. That's 30 feet. They're going to make palm fronds at least 30 feet, probably 35 feet long. Just picture a 104-foot tower with 35-foot palm fronds hanging, metal palm fronds hanging down, and tell me that looks like a palm tree. So we're here to protect our aesthetics. We've got millions of dollars invested out there. We don't need this in such a location, but we're willing to compromise and have them move it, and they can do it.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I think it's important that we hear from the representatives, but of the AT&T. But you've pulled 11 people here, and where are the other people? Are they here today?
They've all submitted either written testimony or verbal testimony at the last 2 hearings, and I really wasn't aware that we needed to go through that dog and pony show again.
Yeah, well,
they're all of record.
Okay, that's fine. There are also 344 other people who...
I don't know that.
Well...
AT&T says that, but of course they have an object in mind.
Well, their object is to serve the community with their services. If they don't serve the community, they don't get paid. And I think that it's commensurate on us to expand services that mean public safety, that mean economic development.
Even though we already have it.
The other towers you're speaking of may not serve those people. may not be...
Well, then we need to determine if those people actually exist.
They've determined that. Through
And
their
you,
study.
and
The
like
federal
the commission,
government
you're going to believe them.
The federal government requires under the grant that they expand the service. That has to happen. They can't just arbitrarily say, hey, we're going to serve 500 more people, and those people be fictitious. They have to prove that that exists and that they're providing a service.
I still think they can do that by moving it.
Well, are you an expert in cell tower placement?
I am.
You are?
Yes, sir.
What your credentials are in?
I'm a real estate broker. I put in 2 towers at Harvest Community Church.
That makes you an expert.
Well, I would say it's more than anyone else in this room has put together.
Okay. I don't think so, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm not going to argue with you about the people, the existence, I believe this expands service to people in an important way, and we need to move forward with it. Thank you for your comments.
And when I went out to tour the site, I toured it with you, Jim, and we looked at everything. And I, as a mission, or I had talked with AT&T before because I'd had so many people over in this area that needed broadband internet. I've had people that have literally moved from here to Fresno because they weren't able to get. He had originally moved from Chicago out into this area, could not get internet, and everybody lives on internet and everything nowadays. Almost everything takes that. We're going away from cable and satellite to streaming, TV, and so I reached out to AT&T looking at these CAF funds, and obviously I wasn't part of who placed it here, so don't get mad at me for it being placed right here. But I did ask them to invest in our area because now when we're looking at any housing communities or for people's home values, the number one thing that people are requiring now is that broadband internet, is the ability to get to it. Unwired is a great company, but it's about half of the speed of the minimum speed that this would do. Those other cell towers, it's a special cell tower that is for broadband internet to be able to increase that capacity. As a rural supervisor, I looked at, how do we expand the services to everybody in the areas that are too far away from cities where there's maybe fiber or some kind of broadband internet that's in the ground. And this is the way to do it. I mean, this has been tried and true technology in Europe, where they're not going to dig up a 5,000-year-old cobblestone road. So they use these towers and to be able to expand that internet service. And so this was something for the kids that are in this area. They need it for school. They're all given tablets that are worthless unless they have connection to the internet. This is going to be, because of these CAF funds, which we all pay them every month. When you pay your cell phone bill, that universal fee is to help get services to those that wouldn't get them otherwise. And if we're not using them here in Madera, and we're not connecting people to what I think is the biggest infrastructure project that we need to do coming into this this next 10, 20 years of getting everybody connected, and we're not using any of those funds for those that in my mind are underserved in our community, then we're really missing the boat. And I'm sorry that it's right there where you can see it. I've seen some of these palm trees, and they're great from afar, but when you really get up and inspect them, it's a little harder. I've been told by AT&T this is a new technology that looks different, and so I'm hoping that it does. I'd like to see how many people do get, how many people, if it's moved, don't get the service. We don't want to take any more time. If there's some way to approve it on the entire location and they find it after, that might be something, but it may just end up right where it is based on what I understand from staff as well as AT&T, that's where it gets the best coverage for everybody. And that's the goal, is to make sure that everybody gets that coverage that they're going to ultimately need in this new environment of a totally plugged-in, interconnected world.
Well, I thank you for that. We are attempting to compromise, but it doesn't appear as though AT&T is attempting to compromise. And I think that if we don't know the answer to how many people are actually served at that location versus the proposed moved location, how can you rule on this? You don't have enough information.
If I could, Supervisor, certainly an approval or an approval of this site, and staff has worked with individuals in the past, right? If it's the board's direction to deny Mr. Merrill's appeal, in essence approve the site and allow it to be moved on the property into the best location aesthetically that still provides those levels of service, we can absolutely work on that. I would say that there is, and I'm looking at a map that's in the packet in the backup, and I can give you guys copies of this as well, that shows the cell tower spacing, and you'll notice there's good coverage in the city of Madera. There's certainly a gap there between the city and this site, but there's really very minimal to the east of this property. And I certainly think AT&T could discuss this, but there's populations to the east of this property and to the south that would be served by this, and the farther you move it to the west, you're going to lose that eastern coverage out there. That's just my thought, but certainly we can work with AT&T if it's the board's direction to look at trying to locate that on a piece of property that provides a higher level of screening from neighboring properties, but also provides the minimal coverage that they have to have as part of the Connect America funds.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, I just AT&T reps are not here?
Yeah, they're here.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Oh, can somebody come up and explain to me what's the difference on the east side or the west side of this property? And that's 20 acres, Matt, the little square that's on our map. That's a 20-acre piece? Yes. And what they own, so they own about 100 acres there then?
That's correct. They have the 20, and then the property to the west as well is owned by the same individual.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, Chairman and Supervisors. Thank you. My name is Julie Tone. I'm the Director of External Affairs, AT&T California, and with me is Maria Kim from Complete Wireless. I do appreciate the comments that you have made, Supervisor Rogers and Supervisor Frazier, and want to add more commentary here regarding this particular location. I do want to start out, however, in just sharing with you that in Madera County alone, we have had 8 locations approved through Planning Commission to expand high-speed broadband internet in Madera County itself. And again, as Matt has shared, this expansion for high-speed broadband is based on the Connect America Fund and the FCC identified census blocks that either do not have high-speed broadband internet coverage or high-speed broadband internet with less than 10 megabits downward, 1 megabit upward from an upload perspective. Many of the owners of the living units in this particular area that we have talked to have expressed concern regarding lack of broadband internet. The Villanueva, if I pronounced that correctly, family was very concerned about the lack of broadband and sent a letter to the supervisor's office. Many of the other residential owners there have expressed concern regarding the high cost of broadband. I'm not sure about $70. We had heard that the cost for most of the folks in the area was in excess of $160 for high-speed broadband internet. So AT&T, based on Connect America Fund and wanting to expand high-speed broadband internet in Madera County, has really reviewed that area and their circumference in that area and where we can build to get the maximum amount of coverage for the over 300 living units in that particular area. Based on the findings, there were a few potential landowners where we could site that location to provide the best coverage. I do, however, want to expand on Matt's comment regarding cellular coverage. If we're going to build a new site build, which this is a new build, to provide high-speed broadband internet, we're also going to put the antenna array on that structure to provide better cellular coverage. And I think Supervisor Rogers did a great job in explaining that the additional benefit for the county residents there is better cellular coverage, thus better applications for wireless usage and public safety. And so there is, I've been calling it a twofer for the county. In a situation like this, we have a new site build not only to provide high-speed broadband internet, but also to provide better cellular coverage in that area. Our RF engineers, our radio frequency engineers, have looked at that area and in that circumference of where we can build and site that location to have the best maximum amount of coverage for the residents in that area. And so it would be very difficult to move a tower. If we move a tower structure even 100 feet, it impacts some of the living units not being able to be covered for this particular type of high-speed broadband internet. And the cellular coverage. So it is in our opinion and based on our engineers and complete wireless engineers that this is the best location for this particular build to provide this type of service.
That's what I wanted to know for myself. I mean, I'm no expert. I don't claim to be. But I like to have experts tell me this and why that particular site is picked and why it wouldn't hurt to move it a half mile or 3/4 of a mile west. So now I know, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I think the aesthetics have been addressed very well, and the location of the tower is up to AT&T at this point because, to me, we want to maximize the coverage. And I know that even in an individual dish, if you move it just slightly, you can lose
everything,
coverage on everything. So it just, it's a matter of the professionals and the experts and the engineers deciding that's the location. And I think you've explained that very well. And so I believe the real concern of the residents has been addressed and mitigated as best it can be. And, if you were to tell me you're just going to build a regular steel structure there and with no aesthetic improvement to it, it would be, that would be obtrusive to anybody. But you're putting a tree, a faux tree there, and that's, as the best we could ask for anybody to do is to improve the circumstances of the aesthetics, and you've done that. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful area there, and they have beautiful homes, well-kept homes, and you have a lot of almond orchards around there. But as you said, if you move it, you affect the communication there. So what are we going to do? We're in a hard spot there. In other words, that's a spot that will provide the best coverage, right?
Correct.
And
yes.
if you move it, you lose that coverage
yes.
to a certain extent.
Yes, you could have a situation of the have and the have-nots. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is anybody else from the public? Come on up.
I just, without trying to repeat myself, I'd like them to explain why the first 3 sites that they selected on your map were rejected, why all of a sudden this 4th site now becomes the perfect place. Why didn't they go there to begin with? That lot's been there the whole time. By the way, here's the truth. It belongs to Mr. Roque. He tried to give it to me for free because you can't farm it. It's got buried engines and car parts underneath it. It is higher ground. It can't be used for anything else. It's not 5 acres. It's a fraction of an acre created by Island Drive curving. You're barely going to be able to get that 40 by 40 on there. The fact remains that this is not necessarily the perfect site. It is now because they don't want to move it, because it costs money to move it. But when it was Parrish's decision, the perfect site was on Parrish. When it was Skeen's decision, the perfect site was on Skeen. Now the perfect site then moved, he rejected it. Then it went to Van Loon. Van Loon said, I don't want it either. And by the way, those last two people, they can use the money. $12,000 or whatever Frank is getting for this. Good for him.
Thank you.
But I'm saying that there's a miscommunication here on the part of what AT&T is telling you. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, here's my invoice from OnWire Broadband. I beg your pardon. It's $79.99 a month. Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, I think you made a pretty good case for it being located there. It's an unusable piece of ground otherwise, and
But it's the aesthetics, sir. It's the aesthetics.
And the aesthetics have been addressed and mitigated as best they can be.
If you live where I live, would you like it in your front yard?
I wouldn't mind having a tree like that in my front yard. I have trees all over my place, and it wouldn't bother me one bit. There's nothing.
I think that's a question that every supervisor needs to ask.
Yeah, I would not mind if it improved the circumstances of my region for broadband. Absolutely, put it there. Put it in my front yard.
Well, thank God you're not in the real estate business, sir.
Matter of fact, I am. Anyway, I think the case has been made for it to be located there.
Okay. Is there anybody else from the public that wants to speak? Well, let's bring it back to the board.
I move to approve. I move that we reject the appeal and approve the planning commission, uphold the planning commission's decision.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have first and second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0. Going into regular session, just a reminder that per staff recommendation, they've asked that we pull item 7F, F as in Frank, for Temperance Flat Reservoir Project and reschedule that item for November 21st meeting.
I move.
I'll second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0. Item 7A, Sheriff Coroner's Department. Discussion.
You say 4-0?
5-0. Sorry.
Trying to get the record straight here.
Thank you. Vote passes 5-0. 7A, Sheriff Coroner's Department. Discussion and consideration of approval to hire Ryan Bittigan as E-Step Deputy Sheriff 2, intermediate, effective December 1, 2017.
Morning.
Morning, board. Sure.
I don't know if you can hear me on this or not. We have before you a request to hire someone at the E-Step. It's someone with 14 years of experience in law enforcement in Madera County, just with the other two agencies. He's currently a supervisor at one of those agencies and is a Madera County unincorporated part of the county resident. He lives in the foothills and is someone I've personally supervised in the past in a different position. I think he'll be an excellent fit and serve the citizens of Madera County well. Due to the current pay he's receiving where he's at, it's necessary for us to come before you and request authorization to hire him at the E-Step.
Move to approve.
Second. Oh, you got it.
Whatever.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. Public comment? Better ask.
You have 5 minutes.
I'll refrain from what I was thinking about in terms of the previous discussion and how useful that tree would be in Chowchilla also.
Thank you.
7B, Social Services Department, presentation of a proclamation naming November 2017 as National Adoption Month. Whereas the County Madera acknowledges that every child deserves to grow up in a loving and forever family, and whereas adoption is a permanency plan for the approximately 68 dependent children in Madera County, and whereas adoptive parents have a unique role by welcoming children into stable, loving families, providing a safe and comforting place for children in need to call home. And whereas November is celebrated across the nation to recognize these caring, devoted families who have opened their hearts and homes to make a difference in the life of a child, and to those professionals who are dedicated to finding families for children and youth who are waiting to be adopted. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County Madera, State of California does hereby proclaim November 2017 as National Adoption Month in Madera County, and encourages all citizens, community agencies, religious organizations, businesses, and all others to celebrate adoption, honor families that through adoption make a powerful difference in the life of a child through adoption.
Good morning, Chairman Rodriguez and Supervisors. I had the privilege of stating that proclamation at last Friday's adoption ceremony, which came out really, real well. There was 18 children adopted last Friday with Judge Bender, and that was just awesome. Thanks to Supervisor Rodriguez for having Letty present. That was very nice for her to be present at our celebration. With me are some key individuals that are in our adoption unit that I'd like to introduce. So I will have Chanel Moore come up, Program Manager, and she will introduce her staff. But thank you very much for this morning.
Good morning, Supervisors.
Good morning.
My name is Chanel Moore. I'm the Program Manager at Child Welfare, specifically over our Adoptions Unit. I want to introduce two of our new social workers in our Adoptions Unit that have started in adoptions with us in Madera County this year. So they were part of the celebration, the event that took place last Friday. They also are moving diligently towards getting our families, our children to permanency and finalization. Those social workers are Fua Zong and Joanne Nulia Melgar. So, ladies.
Speech.
Good morning. My name is Pua Zhang. I'm a social worker for the Adoption Unit.
And good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And my name is Joanne Nuila Melgar. I'm a social worker here from Madera County in the Adoptions Unit.
We find it a privilege and honor to be able to work for the kids in this community, and we appreciate this proclamation on today.
Thank you so much for your type of work. It's so important.
Rogers?
Yes. We appreciate what you do more than you know. My wife, and she's not ashamed of this at all, she was adopted. And it's such an important thing that every child has a home where they're wanted and that they feel loved. And I appreciate the extent to which you go to make that happen. It's so important. Thank you.
Question for you. How do you find these great people that will adopt a child?
We have various avenues. We have families that are within the community that are seeking to foster children and become a permanent home. There are relatives in which we seek out family members. There are adoption agencies that have families that are in waiting for children. So there's a lot of different venues in which we're able to try to connect children to permanency.
Yeah. Now, after the adoption process takes effect, do you continue checking to see if the children have been well taken care of?
Well, it depends on the family. The families can receive adoptions assistance payments for their children, and in that venue we would maintain contact with them. But this is their forever family, so they are able to go on and conduct their lives as regular citizens and move about the country and do as they would with their own biological children.
I see. Great.
What's neat about what you said is that that's their forever family. Legally, it's though they were born to those people, and that is a wonderful declaration.
Yes.
Very good.
We got a proclamation for them. Yeah. I will give it.
Thank you.
Not done yet.
Oh, no, folks, you get a picture.
I put on my lipstick.
I'm
going to post this on my Facebook, okay?
Come on. 7C, Board of Supervisors Department, discussion and consideration of approval to set the salary step placement of Madera County's Veteran Service Officer.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the Board. Adrienne and Caleb reporting this morning. This is an item that is actually a follow-up to the report out today for the appointment of Mr. Curtis Foster as the Veteran Service Officer. The resolution that will be read into the permanent record will place Mr. Foster at range 291, step A of the salary range for the Veteran Service Officer position with an annual salary of $63,746. And I'm open for any questions.
Move to approve.
Second.
Did we ask for public comment?
We can ask for public comment on this matter. We have a motion.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, Adrian.
Great to have a guy that was so distinguished in his service to our country serving in that post.
Yep.
Wounded in action and had already proven himself beyond measure. Thank you.
7D, County Administration Department, Health and Social Services Office Complex. 1, presentation of schematic design documents for the Health and Social Services Office Facility Complex. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of a resolution approving the execution of property purchase agreements related to the construction and leasing of county buildings for the Public Health and Social Services Department. 3, discussion and consideration of approval of a resolution approving the execution of a City of Madera agreement for outside city limits water and sewer connections, site work advance agreement, agreement for liquidated damages, a purchase option addendum, and leases related to the construction and leasing of the county buildings for the Public Health and Social Services Department. 4, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 17-030 in the amount of $100,000 derived from the miscellaneous revenue to be appropriated to Health and Social Services Project Buildings and Improvements. 4 votes required. 5, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 17-040 in the amount of $6 million derived from the Health Realignment Funds to be appropriated to operating transfers out capital project. 4 votes required. 6, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 17-041 in the amount of $6 million derived from Health Realignment Funds to be appropriated to Health and Social Services Project Building and Improvements. 4 votes required.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Eric Fleming, County Administrator. And I'll kick this presentation off. I've got a team of folks here with us today. Maria Miranda is at the table. She's our General Services Director. She's going to do most of the heavy lifting in the presentation today. Joel Bugay, who's our Deputy CAO over our budget and fiscal, is here as well. Jorge Mendoza with Kitchell, who's our Capital Projects Management firm, and Dale Bacigalupi with the County Counsel's Office. And we're also joined by representatives from each of the departments, Public Health and Social Services, as well as the Spencer Development Team. So a little bit of history. We'll put up the first slide here. Am I controlling that from here? Oh.
It's a blue building?
Yeah. Well, I have a couple points that actually precede this first slide. Your board actually set the course that led us to this project back in 2013 when you directed staff to go out and develop a master plan that would plan how we would use our Road 28 and Avenue 14 campus. You then approved the master plan back in September of 2014. And with that master plan, it identified the need to develop a health and social services complex at the location. And at that point then, your board directed staff to go ahead and issue an RFP to find a development company that could come in and help us develop that complex. So then that leads me right into the first slide here. So on August 23rd, then was the last time, in 2016 was the last time we were before your board, and you approved a contract with Spencer Enterprises, Inc. For schematic design services for the new complex, which was to house 4 new buildings, roughly 40,000 square feet each, and it would house our public health department and social services departments in their entirety. Except we do have some remote locations in social services and health. It would be a design-build, lease-back delivery method. And so we are here before you today to get into the details of what we've come up with following your board's direction back in August. And with that, I'll turn it over to Maria.
Good morning, board members. My name is Jorge Mendoza with Kitchell CEM. I'm going to go to the next slide, please. Give you a brief overview of the project. The HSS project consists of Phase 3 and 6 of the master plan. Phase 3 will implement 4 new buildings to house the Department of Public Health and Department of Social Services. The project itself will consist of internal access and fire roads, visitor parking, secure staff parking. It will implement LEED design methods. It will provide safe pedestrian paths of travel as well as a health trail. The trees and plants that are going to be installed during this project are going to be drought tolerant and low allergen. Phase 6 of the master plan will be road infrastructure. This will be water, sewer, storm drain, and electrical connections. Here's an overview of the site plan. The green top left corner kind of delineates a meandering health trail. Next to that, there will be 9 exercise stations throughout the site. The red shows the location of the secure staff parking, and then we have accessible stalls throughout at each of the end of each building. Next slide. As Eric pointed out, we've gone through and completed the schematic design. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of each of the buildings. Building A will be housed by the Department of Public Health. The first floor will consist of clinic and WIC, labs, pharmacy, meeting rooms, interview rooms, and classroom spaces. The second floor will consist of public health administration, conference rooms, training rooms, offices, workstations, amongst other spaces. Building B will be housed by Department of Social Services, and its primary use will be eligibility. First floor will consist of lobby and reception, offices, interview rooms, job club, and orientation rooms. Second floor will consist of workrooms, training and conference rooms, supervisor offices, break rooms, and workstations. Building C will again be housed by the Department of Social Services and will primarily serve as child welfare and adult services. The first floor will consist of visitation rooms, interview rooms, social worker stations, attorney rooms, the TDMM is the transitional decision-making room, and then COCO is county council, primarily for social service department. Second floor will be social worker stations, a nurse station, supervisor offices, family room, and reception areas. And lastly, Building D, again, housed by Department of Social Services, will consist of mainly administration. The first floor will be lobby and reception, meeting and orientation rooms, work rooms, kid care areas, shipping, and then future expansion areas. The second floor will consist of the director's office, supervisor offices, conference room, account supervisor, work room, and again, future expansion spaces. Thank you.
As Jorge mentioned, schematic design has been completed. Per the request for proposal, staff was to return to your board with all necessary documentation to improve the project, including lease documents, purchase agreements, and so forth. Upon board approval today, Spencer Enterprises would complete design, proceed with financing, and begin construction. Today's actions will include approval of 4 lease agreements, 4 purchase agreements, 3 site work advance agreements, 1 purchase option addenda, 1 agreement with the City of Madera to tie into their water and sewer system, and 4 agreements for liquidated damages. The four lease agreements and 4 purchase agreements were necessary due to varying revenue streams between public health and the Department of Social Services. The public health building is going to be a capital lease, so it will have a purchase option available at years 11, 16, 21, and 24. The lease rent will be $1.90 a square foot, or $74,480 a month. And their rent is also reflective of a $3 million down payment that they were able to provide for construction, and that lease will be a 25-year term. All 3 DSS buildings will be operating leases, and those leases will be at $225 a square foot, or $88,200 per month, and that is a 20-year term for those. And they also include an optional lease extension should specific operating lease criteria be met. It was very critical that these leases maintain operating lease structure in order to capitalize on the amount of funds that DSS receives from the state. All 4 leases will include allowances to be paid to the county, by Spencer Enterprises for project management, tenant oversight and admin, inspection of materials testing, and network equipment. And the scope of work for each project is outlined in Exhibit B, which includes all of this project scope and construction expectations. Additionally, the leases reference agreements for liquidated damages should there be any contractor delays that aren't an excused delay. For the 4 purchase agreements, we have a purchase price of $140,000 per parcel for a total of $560,000. The sale is contingent on execution of all 4 lease agreements and all 4 purchase agreements so that the developer has a comprehensive site. Escrow will close 10 days after lease execution should all of the contingencies be met. We will also be advancing $3 million to Spencer Enterprises for site work that was required by the City of Madera and not included in Spencer's original scope of work. We anticipate that being paid from Public Health Realignment, and the scope, really that work that was outside of our expectations was developing 14.5 to city standards. We had not originally planned to do so, and then undergrounding all the utilities along 28 and 14.5. We had planned to do that work, but with Rural 20 credits, not to be paid by this project, and unfortunately the time frame to do that with PG&E was too lengthy, and the city required us to do the undergrounding as part of this project. The $3 million is reflected in site work advance agreements and promissory notes, and they're secured by deeds of trust. And then each advance, it's $1 million per DSS parcel, and as the developer finances each parcel, will be repaid that $1 million. As I mentioned, a City of Madera agreement was required for this project to tie into their water and sewer systems. They required various water, sewer, road lighting, and landscaping requirements. Additionally, we have an obligation to construct road improvements in front of Central Garage. That was part of the agreement we entered into with the city back in 2010 for the Central Garage project when we tied into their city water sewer system. Should we ever develop further the Road 28 campus, that additional work would have been sparked. In this case, it has been.
Right. So for the fiscal impact to the both departments, during the entire length of the project, both departments have included the projected cost of these leases as part of their long-term budgetary projections. Public health lease will be utilizing public health realignment as well as health grants that are already in their budget to cover the cost of the lease moving forward. DSS leases will be claimed to state and federal programs through their normal claim, hence why it was important to maintain an operating lease definition on their leases. On average, a 10% county share of cost for DSS programs will be continued to be matched with social services realignment, so no net cost for those claims.
Out of our general budget.
I'm sorry?
There will be no initial cost out of our general budget. General fund.
The general fund.
Right. Yeah, it's a general fund budget, but the match is social service realignment, so we receive that money from sales tax, so it won't come from discretionary revenues.
Okay.
So as mentioned, if approved today, the next step would be to complete design development, proceed with financing, and begin construction. We would construct the public health building first, and then buildings B, C, and D for DSS. And with that, we're available for questions.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I'd just like to say it's a great, exciting step in the renewal of our county facilities, county-wide, and I think it's a great project, a great step forward. And, one of the things about leaseback, UC Merced just recently, they're doing their entire campus build out with that same process, and that has become the choice and the method of many delivery in public facilities, a great public-private partnership in doing these kind of things. There's a lot of benefits to it, including the maintenance of the facilities and what have you that go along with that. But one of the things I wanted to point out is that we lease our facilities now, and so this is really no different in that respect. The public health and DSS are not allowed under federal rules to own their buildings. So if and when we purchase these buildings, it won't be those entities that procure them. It'll be held under another auspices. Am I correct on that?
If we want to clarify on those.
So just point of clarifications, it does not, the claiming rules doesn't prohibit them from purchasing. It's just that the claiming rules are vastly different, whether it's a straight lease or what they consider as a capital lease. If it's a capital lease, it's almost as if you're funding it and buying it, like with a purchase option. In those terms, the state and the feds will only allow you to claim over 50 years. So therefore, there is a chunk of cost that really, if it is classified as that, would revert to discretionary revenues to the general fund.
It would just be disallowed, and we would have to pay for it.
Right. So that's why, if it's an operating lease, it's a straight rent, that's what the state and feds would reimburse at 100%. As operating costs.
Mm-hmm. So the prohibition is budgetary.
Correct. So that's how, that's how they prohibit that type of projects.
Right. Most cost effective.
Yeah, they basically penalize you for
yes, that's correct.
Buying it outright.
That's with 3 out of 4.
Did you want to answer?
Go ahead. Just to clarify, that's 3 of the 4 buildings, the DSS buildings. Now, on the public health, we were able to find a most cost-effective way was to do the capital lease, in which we'll end up owning or have an opportunity to own that facility.
Okay.
So,
very good.
Yeah.
Well, first, welcome, sir. We're giving you a brand new building, so that's a good way to come into this, right?
Yeah.
So, this is one of those things that, you look at some of the mock-ups and the drawings. This serves our constituents as well as our employees. It gives a safe, nice place that, when people are going to receive treatments or the benefits that they need, this helps give them, make them feel like there's some respect to them as well, that we do care about them, and that they're not just going off into, these kind of dilapidated buildings. And so I think this is a great way to really increase the way that we're perceived as how we take care of those that can't take care of themselves, and those that need assistance from the county, and I'm glad that we're doing it. So to go on to the leaseback method, I think you've already, one of my questions was, is this the best way to finance it? It looks like it is. The next question is to COCO, which I'm now going to be calling County Council after I saw it on here. So COCO, is this also a legal method for this project for Madera County? Or that could be to Dale. Or,
But to be brief about it, yes, it's perfectly legit, and we've reviewed all the. Is your mic on?
Yeah, it is.
We've reviewed the documents and helped negotiate them and draft them, and they're in good shape and consistent with statutes.
That's what I want. That's what I like to hear. And then, as far as the agreements with the City of Madera, I wanted to thank Supervisor Rodriguez for helping reach out with myself, and then to thank Mayor Medellin and Councilman Oliver. At the beginning, there was a laundry list of requirements that we were able to pare down to something that was acceptable. I think there's some things in here that are really going to, from our development and our investment in this area, that will help the City of Madera to continue to grow. I think it's also going to help Virginia Lee Rose, the school right across the street. It will create kind of a safer environment in that area, and we're putting our money into an area that will be very important for the growth of the City of Madera, as well as the growth of the county. And I think it's one of those. It wasn't always smooth sailing, but I think at the end we got to a very good place with city staff and their council and with our board, and we're going to leave this area in a better place than it was when we found it. So I think thanks to them and thanks to our staff and Harris Construction for working together so well to get some of these things ironed out, and it will just benefit our community.
Eric? I'm available for questions. I have no further comment unless you...
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, thank you. At last, I tell you, we've been working on this for a lot of years, and we finally going to have something for all of those four departments. And what's I think the best about this, lease-owned options are the best thing we can do, so we still have a good general fund to be able to run our county efficiently like we need to be doing. So this is one of the best things that's ever been coming about. We've done it on 2 or 3 buildings now. But only really question I have is on the parking. Since I'm on the San Joaquin Air Pollution Board, looking over these kind of things on the parking lot, and the staff and in the for the public, I want to make sure that we have electric hookups for electric cars that I don't like.
But there are provisions to install electric vehicles charging stations.
Okay.
Yes.
For both staff and public.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's really important. It's the common thing. I forgot what the date is, but those years are coming, and if it's like the building they're moving out of, they're about 100 years old, so this is about 100 years from now, it might be all electric cars. So, so we better be ready for it. And our 20 acres of solar panels, that will help electrify this too, right?
Actually, we are adding to our solar out there. On a parallel track, we're working with Optera for a power purchase agreement that's going to fill most of these parking places with solar
Overhead
shades.
solar?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and that'll handle our power needs at this complex. That'll be coming next board meeting, I believe.
Oh, okay. So I'm jumping the gun.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I know it's a detailed question, and I'm sure they're probably already moving in this direction, but my curiosity compels me to ask it anyway. In the design phase of the electrical, we're utilizing LEDs, I'm sure, extensively in the process.
So part of LEED design does implement, so all of our fixtures are LEED. There's recessed lighting, so that's part of LEED requirements. Basically implementing sustainability in the concept of design, and then bringing recycled materials as much as possible, looking into cost savings and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think LED is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I retrofitted a commercial building. In fact, for my church, they were using 6,000 watts in the sanctuary alone. We reduced that to less than 500. So three LEDs and getting more light. Amazing stuff.
So, question for you. On the design of the building, I see you did a beautiful job, but did you put enough seating in that area where your clients come in and sit down and wait for their appointment? Because in our present situation over here, it's overcrowdedness in there. Did you take that in consideration?
Yeah, so in the programming phase, we had, along with Spencer's Enterprises and PBK, we designated essentially what kind of capacity we want. Obviously, there's fire and marshal requirements and space requirements. So we do have enough space based on number of people requested in the programming phase.
Mm-hmm. Now, where the people sit there, waiting for their appointment, is it possible? You probably already thought about this, having some type of let's call it communication system, so where they flash on the programs that are available and also what they do to improve their lives, like they do when you go to a doctor's office. They have information as far as new medicine practices and stuff like that. In other words, you have people sitting there and sometimes waiting for quite a while.
Yeah.
So if you have some means of communicating with the people that are sitting there to inform them of how to improve their lives.
Stuff that we have.
Jorge.
Yeah.
I believe
audience.
the Director of Social Services probably has some input on what she's planning to do.
Well, a little bit. I'll tell you on the specifications, we indicated how many we anticipated to have in the lobby at any given time. There's certain times of the month that it can get incredibly overcrowded, both in Chowchilla and here in Madera proper. So that was already taken into consideration. What you're referring to is more the traffic area. So we have kiosks, but even with the kiosks, being able to call them up is really an issue, right? So it's going to be probably something more like what a DMV would do, where you're able to just indicate a number so that you know what booth to go to is most likely what we're going to be developing. That's not actually part of the project, as I understand it. That's something that we will have to undertake ourselves. It's not part of the design of the buildings, but it's totally what we intend to have present. Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure you use the reference to the DMV very loosely, as we won't be providing those levels of service in these buildings. I know.
The monitoring system.
Yeah, they do. They have got that monitoring
They
system.
have. They really have.
Yeah. One of the things I had seen when Tom brought up the parking lot, and I had a question mark. I forgot to go back to it. But what are the exercise stations that are? It looks like, is that like a walking trail system or?
Yeah, come on up, Julie.
Are we going to be?
We got a grant for this particular project, and we kind of added that to the work. And Julie can talk.
Good morning, gentlemen. We were able to apply for an urban greening grant. It came from several pots of money. It addressed carbon sequestration, developing green spaces, and a couple of different things like that. The way we were able to approach, it's the California Conservatory Agency, is to put exercise stations around the perimeter of the project.
Wow.
And so that way it will help our underserved communities. There are actually some wheelchair-specific stations, so people of all abilities can come in from the neighborhoods. we were able to talk to our physical therapists and things that are on staff with public health, and they chose the exercise stations. So they could tell you, for seniors, there are balance beams, so it'll address the core, muscles on the side. And
I need that.
So it's something the community can come in and share. And then on the greening end of things, there are benches and the tree canopies that will eventually, be planted and shade over. People can go out there and just enjoy something that's green. The kids can come across the street from the schools and, partake of the courses. We'd even thought about doing the geocaching that's so popular with the kids right now, and doing little stations where they can find things. Right. There will be signs along there that tell about public health. Basically, if you should walk and the benefits of walking. We did our community health assessment, and so what they had found is obesity and diabetes are concerns of the community. So something like this would address it. So sorry, that's a big, long explanation.
No, I appreciate that. I wish Eric would have told me that when I was negotiating with the city. That could have, we're creating usable green space.
Yeah. What was your name?
So
I didn't catch your name.
My name is Julie Gregson. I apologize.
Judy, he's busy talking. I can't hear nothing.
My name is Julie Gregson.
Thank you, Judy.
I'm with Public Health.
Great job.
Great job. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's important to have outcome-based situations like that where we're giving people alternatives to the lifestyle they've developed maybe and that are healthier. And I think that's the way to do it is demonstrate it, and that's awesome.
You bet. And especially in the summertime, it's a place where people can go. It'll be shaded. Sure. You can push a stroller along it. There's a sidewalk, et cetera. So.
Yeah, it's kind of like an ounce of prevention. A lot of seniors can get the opportunity to go to a gym free, and they're finding that it's a better alternative than putting them in the hospital somewhere. They get healthier and they don't eat it.
You betcha. And they're finding that, I want to say in the social determinants of health, they talk about that being built in with our built communities. So sidewalks and exercise courses and safe places to be, help the health of our community.
Glad to see government think like that. Prevention rather than just pass out money and try to cure it the other way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Open it to the
Let's
public.
take it out to the public.
Move to approve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 if there was one. Second.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Chairman, before you take a vote, sorry, I just I noticed a minute ago on the first resolution that you'll be approving, which is item number 3, there is a one-letter typo, but it is important to correct on the record before you take a vote, and that is it references a single single agreement for liquidated damages. There are actually 4, so that should be a plural reference
for 4 liquidated damages.
Agreements for liquidated damages. That correction should be made both in the title and in the body of that resolution.
I move, part of my motion is to make that correction of 4.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
And Chairman, members of the board, I would ask, I know there's only a couple of items left, but we have outside counsel here that got pushed from our morning closed session. If it pleases the board, if we can go back into closed session, that would fit with the timing. Otherwise, we might have to move that discussion to a different meeting, and I wouldn't suggest we do that.
Okay. I see 7E. Robert, you leave it?
So are we doing that right now?
Yeah. Let's do it real quick.
to report.
Okay, go ahead. Rhonda? Oh, you got to wait for them to come in? Yeah. Okay.
Who are you waiting for?
All you have to do is pick up the paper. It's crazy. It happens every day. It happens every day. It's not something that's...
Hello there. Number 1 and 2 in IT.
I go every Sunday.
Okay, 7E, Office of Information Technology. Discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Adaptive Integration, Inc. in the amount of $483,300 for the purchase of audio-visual, multimedia, and room control systems equipment, professional services, and 5-year parts and labor warranty as part of the Board of Supervisors Chambers Audio-Visual Modernization Project.
Good afternoon, Chairman of the Board, board members. The item before you is the contract for the board equipment modernization project that we've been working on for quite some time, and I'm available for any questions.
I think we ought to just keep right on moving, and I make a motion that we approve it.
We make a motion to approve.
Second. Tom, you didn't do anything on that one.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question. Just because we are talking about $483,000, I'd just like to maybe give a brief discussion about what makes the system we have right now obsolete and how this new system is going to improve things for the taxpayer and for the public.
Okay.
Good question.
Well, we've had, and some of the problems we've kind of resolved working with Rhonda, but we have had many issues with the board equipment not working properly. Everything's a little outdated. We can't get a warranty. We can't get like a service warranty contract on any of the parts. So when something does go wrong, then it's always a scramble to try and find that missing part. Sometimes it's, we always do a test like Thursday before the board meeting. So twice a week. So we have had situations where we've had to order parts at the very last minute. Sometimes they get here, sometimes they don't. In terms of the constituents, we are going to be adding more speakers. We're going to be adding more audio-video components so that we'll be able to do some, I want to call it telemarketing, and that is not it, some video conferencing that will integrate. I know telemarketing came to my mind.
If you call me during dinner time, there's going to be a problem.
And the video conferencing will connect more with modern day software like Skype, which we don't have now. In addition, I mentioned the speakers. We're going to have some digital signage in the lobby. The chairman had mentioned something about that, the DSS building, so there'll be more informational type of items. The most important is just the modern day equipment that we can actually service and that we can actually make sure is functioning on a regular basis, and that we've got the warranty in place.
Okay, and it's going to make it more user friendly for those at home on, like you mentioned, on Skype, or maybe they've got FaceTime or whatever.
Right, and the video quality should be better.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Especially with the updated website coming too when we stream through there.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Did you have anything to add?
To add that, what Supervisor Poitras just mentioned, all I have to do is go across the street. And that system over there, as far as I'm concerned, I can hear everything there. Maybe not hearing's not the best. My hearing's not the best, but still, this system is not adequate. It isn't adequate.
And I think that's a good point, because we have to realize that maybe our constituents can have some issues hearing as well. So we need to make sure that everything's ADA compliant and it's going to meet the needs of the constituents as well.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just on the Air Board, their system is so great. I can't even tell you compared to ours. I mean, it's absolutely, totally, I mean, it's just unbelievable the difference. And hearing, there's no problem hearing that. I mean, it's just, and there's 12 board members, so, you know, putting up with all that is not easy. And we also have office in Bakersfield and Modesto, and they don't always come to the main office in Fresno. They video conference from there, and they got monitors right in front of us. And so we can see each other when we talk, we hear each other plain as day, and sometimes you can't hear anybody. So, so it's time for us to update this, and I mean, it's a lot of money, but for the bang for the buck of what we're going to get for our public is 10 times more than anything.
And I do want to note one thing as well. In 2007, was that when we moved into the new building? 2007 was when the existing equipment was put in place. At that time, it was towards the end of the life. We were was at the end of its cycle already. So the equipment's just very outdated. This equipment should be in place for 10 years. We should be able to use this for 10 years. We are going to enter into a 5-year lease for it, but we should have it for 10 years. I already have a budget reminder in 5 years to be sure to update the warranty so that we can continue that warranty through the life of the equipment.
Very good. One of the things I wanted to mention was that sound technology is a very specific science, and depends on the size of the room, the configuration of the room, the number of people in the room. There's a lot of things that contribute to poor audio in a room. And I know this because I've been involved with the engineering of sound for years in church buildings in particular, because they're very difficult to do that, and the music end of things. So you can get the best equipment in the world, and if it's not placed right or not used properly, it can still be a problem. And I've seen churches that bought $100,000 systems and still had the same problem they had before, because they didn't address the room and didn't have people that and I'm sure we've got people that are capable of running equipment, no problem. But it needs to be looked at from a professional sound standpoint if that's what we're trying to accomplish here. That definitely has to be something that happens.
Which is exactly why we did engage with a professional vendor to design what the system was, because we were worried about that. We don't have any specialists that specialize. Yes, they are very capable of running the equipment, but designing it, we were a little bit concerned that we weren't going to get exactly what we wanted, so we did engage a professional.
Very good. Thank you.
How did you understand? I couldn't even hear him.
Huh? Call for the vote.
Do we have public comment?
Now that we have a public again.
Public comment? Not at all. Bring it back to the vote.
Max made the motion.
Okay. Max made the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
You bet.
And then you seconded?
No, I did. Tom just sat there.
Okay.
I got bumped.
Okay. Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
I'm thinking about it. Yes.
Supervisor Rogers? Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
I get 2 votes now.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Can't hear.
Item 7G, Water and Natural Resources Department, introduction of an ordinance amending Chapters 13.101 and 13.28 of Title 13 of Madera County Code pertaining to the installation of water flow meters and water level meters regulations, and adoption of a resolution adopting the revised fees for the water flow meter permit, waive the reading, and set the public hearing for November 21, 2017 at 10 o'clock.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the board. I'm here with my colleague, Matt Treber, the Director of the Community and Economic Development Department, and it's our pleasure to present to you a brief overview of an updated ordinance for our water flow meter program in Madera County. Brief history: the ordinance was originally adopted in December 2014. You'll be reminded that this applies to new and replacement wells. Currently, the fee for a water meter is $173. It does require an inspection of your water flow meter and the water level measuring device. The permit fee will be divided amongst the Building Division, the Environmental Health Division, and the Water and Natural Resources Department. Both of those divisions are within Mr. Trieber's department. Just for the public and just as a reminder, well permits are applying to the drilling of a hole which creates a location for a well that can be capped and it can be held in place or it can be used. When you are ready to use that well, you will need a meter once you equip it with a pump and you're ready to extract water from the well. So that's where a meter permit comes in. On October 10th, this board gave direction to staff to amend the ordinance based on staff direction, and I'd like to give a brief overview of what the changes are to the ordinance. Our goal in amending this ordinance was to increase efficiency for property owners and to change the workflow so that it's more efficient for the community that we serve. So the workflow will go as follows. First, the Environmental Health Department will review a well application and determine whether a meter is required. The second step, the Water and Natural Resources Department will generate communication to the property owner should the meter be required, notifying them of both the meter requirement and the requirement for an inspection of the meter and the water flow device. The water flow meter and the water level measurement device. Thirdly, the Building Division will inspect at the same time the electrical panel and the meter and the water measurement device. So this creates efficiency for the property owner. They only have to allow access one time to the Building Department to get all of these things inspected and approved at the same time. And then lastly, there is an annual reporting requirement in the ordinance, and that data will be collected by the Water and Natural Resources Department. And we did change the reporting requirement. Originally it was a quarterly requirement, and we have now changed it to make it easier for property owners. It's only once a year in the month of October. So at this time, staff would like to recommend that we waive the reading of the ordinance and set the public hearing for November 21st at 10 a.m. And I don't know if Mr. Trieber has any comments.
Thank you, Julia. I would just add, and it was already stated in that presentation, but really what this will be doing is just streamlining the permitting process, make it easier really for the public is what our goal is under this. The building department has to do an inspection out there for the electrical when that gets turned on. So really the way it currently is, you've got Public Works doing an inspection out there of the meter, you've got the building division doing an inspection of the electrical panel, and it just made a whole lot of sense to just combine those activities under one umbrella, so make it easier for the property owner and really streamline it for them and make it most cost efficient on the government side too, just to have one inspector doing that inspection.
Supervisor Rogers? Did you want to speak? No. Okay. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, all the water basins have to have meters by a certain year, 2020 or 22 or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, public water systems have to be outfitted with meters by 2025.
Oh, 2025. I knew there was a date out there, so
yeah. So a public water system is defined by either serving 3,000 connections or using 3,000 acre feet of water.
Okay.
And according to our Public Works Director, we don't have any public water systems that qualify under that particular.
In Madera County, we don't?
Correct.
But sooner or later, it's going to happen. I guarantee you. It's going to happen.
How else are you going to monitor?
And so, no, that's what I was getting at. That's the reason I brought this up, because I think this will be I think it's a great step for us to do, because we need to be in line, because the hard part's going to be when they do make it mandatory, probably for every well in the state, that it's going to be hard to convert some of these people, like me, with my own private well, to put one of those on me, because if we can start doing this on almost any new well we put in now, even up now, I don't think this doesn't cover the higher elevations, does it?
The ordinance, as is, covers the entirety of the county, so it's not just specific to the basin, it's all new or replacement wells. And I would just, as a caveat to the public and the board, right, we are going to be working and moving towards ensuring that since this ordinance went into effect, we have compliance throughout the county, right? Part of the issue is you have a number of instances where an individual, typically large landowner, will go and drill a backup well. They won't energize it. They won't put a pump in there. They'll just put a hole in the ground, right, so that if they have an issue with another well, that they can just come online and do that. So we have a number of those instances. We're going to be sending out notices to a number of property owners, informing them of the requirements of the ordinance, and to get them in compliance. If they do have a well that's operational, a new well that they hadn't got a meter, we'll be working with them to make sure we got compliance across the board there moving forward.
And then
and just
the reporting part of it, that's what I was going to get at next, is that...
Well, could I just make one little clarification first, if you don't
okay.
mind? I just wanted to flag that there are some exemptions in the ordinance, and one of the exemptions is if you are in an area where you're on fractured rock. So although the ordinance is county-wide, one of the exemptions is a very small change to a water system, or if you're on a fractured rock. So a lot of your district would not at this time be required to have a meter. They could actually apply for an exemption. Yeah.
But, and then the reporting of it, I mean, that's what they're going to make us do, too, sometime, to figure out how they're going to control the usage of our water someday.
Well, we managed to escape that under the Groundwater Management Act so far, because we've been in compliance.
Yeah.
But that would be their first step if we ever were to be deemed not sustainable, or we were out of compliance with the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. They would send the State Water Resources Control Board in, and they've been very open with the fact that they would ask for everyone in the valley floor to have water meters, and they would have to self-report.
Okay.
And we were out of compliance with CASGEM at one point, and we didn't have any way to monitor. We were very, very far out, and we did get into compliance with that, so we were, but now we're not. Is the loophole closed that wasn't kicking back, that there wasn't a meter permit or a meter that was actually put on? And then I'll have some follow-up questions too.
Yes, Supervisor, we have worked diligently to close any potential loopholes there, right? Nothing is perfect. If you have a property owner who's unwilling to follow the rules and regulations, right, we're going to have those issues, and we will identify those when they come in for a permit, right? If they don't get a well permit and they just go out there and drill a hole, there's not much we'll be able to do today about that, but we eventually will catch up on that. In essence, on those ones that we've had outstanding, yes, they've all been flagged in our system. We know those instances where we have a well that was issued since the adoption of this ordinance that have not gotten a meter. Those are the individuals that are going to get a letter from us. It'll be a nice letter informing them of that, right? We're not going to send them a bill and a citation and a $152 penalty right off the get-go, right? It'll be a notification of, please be aware you're required a meter. Well, when and if you have energized that well out there, you need to come in, work with us, and really we want to work with those property owners because ultimately our goal is to get compliance, right? Our goal is not to get fines and penalties and those things. It's simply to make sure everybody has a level playing field and everybody is operating under the rules and ordinances of the county.
You're going to get people that are going to say, well, it would have been cheaper for me to do it at the time. Why didn't you require it at the time? But I'm sure you've got a Rolodex of responses to that.
All you got to do is say you should have done it.
In terms of the reporting requirements, they're required to do a sounding that has to be by a professional, I would imagine. When we get into if it's all in October, which I really appreciate that we're going to once a year reporting, because the quarterly reporting was so onerous. I mean, people would be literally paying 4 times for a well sounder to come out. I mean, that's going to be an extra $1,500 a year. Plus, they have to engage in it, and do we even have enough people out there that have the capability of doing that 4 times a year? In terms of the actual well sounder, like, can we get, they're more focused on drilling wells and make more money there. But so how do we if people can't get somebody out, can they do the reporting in September and then just turn in the report in October? What are the requirements of them, and how do they go about that? And what if they can't get somebody out, but they can show that they have a time in November that someone's coming out, say?
Yeah. So when you talk about ag wells, that's one thing. So the reason we chose October for a couple of reasons. It's the end of the water year according to the state. It's also when CASGIM readings are taken, and CASGIM readings are typically taken on active ag wells, and so it's a good time of year because they've been running, and it's you've gone through the heavy water season, and so it's a good time to go out and see where the water levels are. If residents or if anyone needs help with that, we're more than happy to assist. Hi, Dexter. Are more than happy to assist with that. I mean, people do have hardships. I know that when we do the CASGIM reporting, that oftentimes some of the wells are just they're not accessible or they're down. We can't get a reading. And so that is the reality of this business, is that it's not always a perfect game. We understand that.
Supervisor Portridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really don't have a question. I guess it's just more of a comment. And probably Supervisor Frazier talked to Adam Horner, and maybe several of us did. I guess their company, they were very diligent, and when they made a proposal for pump services, they would always add in the meter into the invoice or the quote, and they were getting beaten out by all these other pump companies because they weren't including the quote for the meter. So I guess I've heard that there's different points where we can ensure that the meter's been installed. For instance, the hookup to PG&E and so forth. But anyway, I just hope that that's not repeated, and I know that. There's a new sheriff in town to ensure that those things happen, and you have an able assistant to, But anyway, that's just my concern that we do follow through this time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, we haven't changed our policy in regards to existing wells with circumstances where the system's been designed and it's impossible to install a meter in the space available and all that. At this point, am I right? None of that's been changed?
That is correct. Are you speaking to existing wells and retrofitting those?
Right.
No, this would be new and replacement wells only.
New and replacement wells, and they need to, when they do the replacement well, they need to design into the system meter and what have you. By the way, sounding is not a difficult process. You unscrew a cap, drop your line down the well, and the machine beeps. It makes a sounding noise when it hits the water. It makes a contact. It's not a difficult process. So I don't know that we need professionals sounding wells. I don't know that that's necessary. But as long as people are reporting it, I think that's fine.
Do you think? I mean, you have to have the equipment.
Yeah, you have to have the equipment. I can borrow the equipment.
Does Dexter, I mean, does that, is there a problem with contamination of water if it's on like a...
No.
No?
Chairman, Supervisor, and board members, I apologize for being late. For some reason, I just got lost track of time.
You're here.
You are correct. There is no potential for contamination. As long as they have those ports there and there are sealed, it's just when you remove the seal to do those testing.
Right.
So that's not our issue.
Yeah, it's really an inert process. It's very simple. And if you can borrow a sounder, there's a lot of well companies with them. And
I just want to make sure, because before it had to be a professional, and I mean, if they didn't report it, there was like a misdemeanor or a...
Yeah.
We
got onerous.
We went from a very draconian place. I just want to make sure that's why I was asking, how do we...
So we removed, I didn't mention it in the presentation, but as part of the streamlining, we removed the language that required them to have it certified every 2 years and all of those requirements.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was...
Yeah, we took that out.
Well done. People need to know that.
Yeah. No,
I think Dexter wants to make a comment.
Members of the board. Members of the board. I just wanted to thank Julia and actually Matt as well. We, working with environmental health, water and natural resources, and planning, I think we written this ordinance really well. I mean, we kind of took out a lot of the things that I think that weren't really necessary, but I think this is a well-written ordinance. I think it'll serve the public as well.
Yeah, I just don't want to see us put anything, like Brett said, anything onerous on the public that we don't have to do. It's just better to avoid that.
All right, well, let's take it out to the public. Any public comment?
Waive the reading and
back
set
to
the
the board.
public hearing for November 21st at 10 a.m. Well, I'm not going to say 10 a.m. Let's just say it, November 21st.
Yeah.
Okay.
Call for the vote. Call for the vote?
Fred, second?
Yeah, I'm good with that, taking out the 10 a.m. as well.
We already did that.
There's a reason. Go ahead.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, guys. And girls. Gotta watch how I say those things nowadays.
Number 8, pending legislation.
I just got this one thing. I was at a meeting a month or two ago, actually, and we had all the different counties' website open, looking at the where the districts were and stuff. And ours was the ugliest, so Muhammad and I got together, and his genius made this up on his time too. So, but I think this is what we need to add to our website. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but
It's nice.
it just makes all the difference in the world. I mean, if you look at it on our picture of our deal, you don't know where the districts are, you don't know who they are or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So and we've copied that off a couple of them, and he made that up. And I thought it was pretty cool. So I'd like to just hand it on to you and make sure we move that and thank Muhammad for it again. So I'll pass it to those guys, MC. Thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Yep, very good.
Nope.
Any report?
Oh, nothing to report, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
sir, the lines are wrong.
I know, that's the old ones. That was, like I said, done a couple months ago before that. They're going to be corrected, don't worry.
Guys, good looking at the bottom. It's southern half.
It's all pink.
Yeah.
And what, oh,
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
No report, Chairman.
and one other pending legislation that I'm going to be working on with Corliss from Mono County. I can't think of what her first name is anyway. I've actually been talking to Jay about it too, and I'm going to talk to Barry Hill and them up there about realigning Madera County lines with Mono County to give them the Devil's Post Pile and stuff. So I'll be working on that next year.
What, our only national park or monument or whatever it is?
We got National Yosemite.
Get rid of it.
It's a hassle. You can ask Mr. J. Right.
Well, let's go into closed session.
Okay.
Oh, it still has the time, the old time on 3:02.
That was two.
Changed.
That was good.
That was good.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Mr. J.
County Council.
There are no reportable actions from closed session.